What's going on, guys? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back here with another video, and today we're going to be looking at Astrologian and what it brings to Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, Shadowbringers. So right away we're going to be looking straight into how the cards are going to interact with the game overall. We still have the 8 cards from before, with Lady of Crowns, Lord of Crowns as the minor arcanas, and the regular 6 batch of cards. The balance, the arrow, the spear, the bowl, the ewer, and the spire. While the offensive cards, the balance, the arrow, and the spear, all grant a 6% damage increase for a target member, either yourself or a melee DPS. That is a 6% damage increase for 15 seconds, or 3% for any other class type, whereas the bowl, the ewer, and the spire, the more defensive cards from before, grant a 6% for a ranged DPS. I assume this means magical as well, so we can't leave the casters out. Or a 3% damage increase for all of the other classes that decide to have this card put on them with a 15-second duration. The balance of the bowl also grants you a solar seal, the arrow or ewer grants you a lunar seal, and the spear and the spire grant you a celestial seal. And this will become important when we look at an ability that is received by the Astrologian in a bit here. Draw now pretty much functions the same. However, when you draw a card now, it then goes on the new action play, which basically allows the draw recast timer to tick down while you still make a decision on what if you're going to play that card, if you're going to hold it, if you're going to do whatever you want to do with it. Redraw now has a 3 charge maximum instead of just the 1 from before, so you can effectively have 4 draws basically. Undraw obviously still exists, and sleeve draw basically grants you stacks of sleeve draw, which basically reset the draw recast timer to 3 seconds, effectively allowing you to draw 3 additional cards, with the recast timer being 3 minutes. The Lady and Lord of Crowns are basically just 8% or 4% depending on what class. DPS increases, the Lady being for ranged DPS, the Lord being for melee DPS. So basically just being an enhanced version of the other cards. With the new draw mechanic in place for these new cards, your job gauge is completely different from what it was before. Now it shows you the 3 celestial seals at the top, as we saw in the job action trailer. We also see the card drawn in the picture, and then we also see what card you have to draw next in the text below it. Some people may have been a bit confused when it said the arrow and it had the spear underneath it, and all different other combinations that we saw. So now we can see which card we are drawing next, so we can kind of prepare in what we are doing for the next card when we draw it, and who we're going to be able to place it on, or if we want to turn it into an arcana later on. In terms of abilities that still work pretty much the same, Benefic and Benefic 2 more or less function the same. Essential Dignity now gives you a trait now at level 78, which gives you that second charge of Essential Dignity, which is obviously super nice if in stages where you need to burst heal. Your damage abilities in Combust and Malefic now upgrade to Combust 3 and Malefic 4 at level 72, which is the same for all of the other healers as well, with the Astrologians ones being the most lacking in terms of damage, and especially so for gravity, as it does less damage and still has a cast time, unlike the Scholar one, which has an instant cast, and the White Mage one having a stun attached to it. So being weak overall in damage, but can be made up for with the cards as a whole for the raid DPS. In terms of their AoE heals, Aspected Helios and regular Helios function pretty much the same. Earthly Stars heal is still exactly the same, it just had a slight damage nerf. Collective Unconscious is now a very poor ability based on the tooltips that we saw in the media tour, mainly because its cure potency was slightly nerfed, and overall it's just basically a worse Sacred Soil from Scholar. It's just not looking very good at all, considering you have to channel it in order to get the full damage reduction, or having to use it within a server tick, where Sacred Soil can now basically protect you for the entire duration, and it has a bigger radius. But looking to their more powerful abilities, Lightspeed now has the buffed version of it as a 2-minute recast time. It lasts 15 seconds, so it'd be as if you time dilate it from before. Sinistry received a slight recast timer increase up to 2 minutes. And they received a new ability called Horoscope, which basically gives a buff to everyone within a 20-yard radius called Horoscope. If they are affected by Helios or aspected Helios, they receive another buff called Horoscope Helios, which is a 20-second buff that can use the Horoscope ability to be reactivated in order to get another additional heal. Now, in terms of aspected Helios, I'm still not sure whether it actually, you know, extends the shields or increases the shields. Maybe it stacks the shields or regens. I'm not too sure in that regard, but it's a pretty cool ability nonetheless. Divination is where the seals come into play. So it is a 3-minute recast time that effectively allows you to do AoE balance. But it depends on how potent it is all up to how many seals you have that are different. So if I have 3 of the same type of seals, so let's say I have 3 solar seals, I get a 3% damage increase. If it's 2 different seals, so let's say 2 solars and a lunar, it's a 3% damage increase also. Probably going to be changed. That seems a bit weird to have the first 2 the same value. And a 3 different seal gives you 6%. So most likely it's going to be like 246 or maybe 248. Who knows? But most likely it's going to have some type of differentiation between no different seals, 2 different seals, and 3 different seals. But overall, that is where you're getting your AoE balance now. Their main ability at level 80 is Neutral Sect. So you gain the attributes of both Diurnal and Nocturnal Sect at level 80 for 20 seconds with a recast timer of 2 minutes, and allows you to use the benefits of both Diurnal and Nocturnal stances. So you get both shields and regen. So you basically become like Universal God mode, whatever you want to call it. It was the ability that had all the planets flying around you and looked really cool. And like I said, this duration is 20 seconds long, but it also increases your healing magic potency by 20% as well. You do have something to use in the downtime, however, an ability that you acquire at level 74 called Celestial Intersection, basically functioning the same way as Aspected Benefic does, but for the opposite stance. So if you're in regen stance, it gives you a small shield with the Nocturnal shield, and if you are in Nocturnal stance, it gives you a regen, so giving you a little bit of both worlds there. In terms of the healer role actions, those pretty much stayed the same across the board, with Swift Cast, Asuna, Lucid Dreaming, and Rescue all remaining, with some slight tweaks to their recast timing, specifically for Lucid Dreaming. Surecast still remains the same, however, it is a 2-minute cooldown, much like Arm's Length. Still lasts the same amount of time, but all knockbacks are being toned back in terms of how often you can negate them. And the last role action is Repose, which basically allows you to sleep one target for 30 seconds. So probably just going to be used only out in the world environment. Overall, I feel that Astro seems to be the weakest out of the healers, with things moving away from the raid utility-wide cards, only being an ability every 3 minutes, and now focusing more on solo cards and getting that buff stacked up so that you can make Divination as strong as possible. In terms of their damage, they seem to be lacking in that department as well, based on the tooltips that we have seen. Again, everything is subject to change. As well as their heals being more or less just slightly weaker versions than White Mage and Scholar, which are looking pretty good right about now. But overall, it looks like it's a very aesthetically pleasing job. It's always been a very fun job. However, that seems to be toned back a bit, because now you just kind of know, hey, look, everything is a balance, whereas before it was like, wow, oh, cool, I got the balance. You know, it's type of the surprise factor. But I guess the speed runners or the hardcore raiders will appreciate it, because now they can actually plan it properly, and it's a lot less RNG involved, even though drawing is still RNG based. But at least you could still plan out when you see what your next card is to figure out what you're going to do with it. So that's going to do it for me in this video. Make sure to like, favorite, subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff for the video. We'll be moving on to one of the other healers, either White Mage or Scholar. Not sure what's in the list. in order. I'm just going based off the Gamerscape website, as they have provided an excellent display, which is where all the content has come from, for all the different tool tips that we saw from the Final Fantasy media tours in Europe and in North America. I will leave a link to that in the description below. So that just about wraps up this video. So until next time, take care.